Okay, so the UAE, as we know, is one of the fast emerging economies and a powerhouse of homegrown brands. Entrepreneurs are ambitious and do not restrict themselves within borders. They want to be seen as global players, and that's why we decided to have an engaging panel discussion on this topic. How do the homegrown brands become globally competitive? I would now like to invite Professor Christopher Abraham, Senior Vice President, SP Jain School of Global Management, Dubai, who will chair the second panel discussion. With 24 years of professional experience in management consulting and management education in India, Canada, Singapore, and the UAE, his area of competence includes corporate strategy, innovation, trends, and positive organizational behavior. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Professor Christopher Abraham.
A very good afternoon to all of you and a very warm welcome. And we're going to have a very interesting discussion in the next few minutes. But before we set the ball rolling, may I take the honor of introducing my esteemed panel. We have 5 wonderful people representing 5 very interesting, diverse verticals, and each one of them would have exciting perspectives to share with us this afternoon. May I call upon Mr. Omar Obeidat from the Intellectual Property Department, Al Tamimi. Omar is a lawyer by practice, but more importantly, a person who is passionate about intellectual property, and his expertise is in safeguarding patents, brands, and intellectual property. With many years of experience, almost 15 years in Dubai, working for the Al Tamimi Group, Omar brings a rich heritage of legal jurisprudence and intellectual property rights, working across different sectors, including tobacco, mobile phones, pharma, FMCG, and he also manages a large team of lawyers. My second panelist is a lady called Ambereen Musa. Ambereen is another very interesting person. She's the founder of the Souk Al Mal. Those of you who were on the earlier panel would probably remember Alexander from Dubai SME mentioning Ambereen. That's the lady herself. So you might have some interesting questions for her. She'll be happy to answer them. She again comes with a rich experience across verticals, an MBA from INSEAD, started career as from GE Money, and then moved on to Bain & Company as one of the consultants, was a senior marketing consultant, managing consultant at MasterCard, and finally went on to start something on her own, which I think is a story by itself. So, Ambereen, thank you very much. Put your hands together, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. My third panelist has a resume which runs to about 7-8 pages, but I'm going to restrict myself to look at the key dimensions of his achievements. Mr. Ashish Patel, who comes with a rich 18 years of experience in global HR leadership, organizational development, change management, and leadership coaching. He has been a part of, as an advisory member or as a board member, in a number of startups across different parts of the world, especially in India. And he comes with a rich 18-year experience consulting for companies and brands, especially in the areas of organization and change management. Put your hands together and welcome Ashish Patel. My fourth panelist is a gentleman called Ram Kumar Venkatraman. Ram again comes from the consulting background, so you're going to have a lot of interesting advice from the consultants. Interestingly, Ram has about 20 years of experience in management consulting for global clients in strategy, balanced scorecards, organizational transformation, customer service strategy, and various other areas, including implementation project management. He has done a number of ERP technology implementations and transformations for many banks, and currently works with the Sidar Management Consulting International as its partner for the last 13 years and 8 months. And ladies and gentlemen, put our hands together and welcome Ram Kumar. Last but not the least, we have another amazing lady from the Dubai government. She works currently as a legal associate for the Dubai Economic Council, Government of Dubai, Kara. And Kara used to work earlier with Tamir, Jones Day, and Dewey, and Libov, and has her education from the CCL Academy in Law. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have the panel in place, and we're going to have some very interesting dialogues. And the way we would do it is, I would start with a little video. I want to show you, many years back, almost 100 years plus, 1886 to be more precise, a doctor, concocted a small syrup and wanted to sell it across as a soft drink. And the first time when he sold it, it was about 9 bottles in a day. Today, that same brand, as some of you may be familiar, is the Coca-Cola brand, which sells about 1.9 billion, bottles in a year. Now, from 9 to 1.9 billion is the story of a startup that built a brand and maintained the brand. Coming closer to the United Arab Emirates, we have 1985, when the vision of the leadership in Dubai decided to go flying. In fact, it was an opportunity that came out of a problem. The current existing airline deferred from doing business in Dubai for the time being. The Dubai government saw an opportunity there, leased out 1 Airbus and 1 Boeing, and started an amazing airline called Emirates Airlines. Ladies and gentlemen, the message is very simple. We start small and think big, dream big, and actually grow big. So the message to all our wonderful SME entrepreneurs sitting here wanting answers, I think there is magic in the current century, offering a plethora of opportunities. Without much ado, let me start with a little video, a small video which talks about how branding has now transformed the way we think about branding. So, it finally ends with you. A few decades back, there was this marketing manager who said, we spend a few $1 million in advertising, but we don't know where the money goes. And I think today, 21st century, it's a completely different paradigm shift. The owner, the entrepreneur, the SME innovator today has the brand in his or her control, and that's the message that we'd like to leave. So let me start this discussion by asking Omar. Omar, in your years of experience being here, helping local brands grow, tell me, in your opinion, what has been the experience of how brands, local brands have gone successful. We know the story of the Jumeirah Group, Emaar, Emirates Airlines, Etisalat. There have been a number of big brands that started small and have gone global. And there are smaller brands, lesser known brands like Just Falafel, UA Exchange, and many others. Omar, you tell me in your experience, how have local brands gone successfully global?
Thank you, Professor. Well, it's interesting you mentioned some of the brands, which I don't think are had the same path, which are Emirates, Jumeirah, and Etisalat. And this is a good starting point, because it's all about choosing the brand from the outset. What is your trademark that you decided on that will live with you, your business, and it becomes your partner consistently for many years? And by the way, trademarks never expire. So a trademark can live for hundreds of years, as opposed to other intellectual property rights like copyright and patents. But when you think of choosing it, the trademark, you have to think of choosing a trademark that will work in the UAE, will work in the GCC, and work globally, which means you have to understand the meaning of that trademark in other languages, if it has meanings, make sure it doesn't conflict with other existing trademarks in other countries. So essentially you have to do your due diligence, make a clearance for the trademark, make a clearance for the domain name, and then start to protect and register your trademark, because you want to reserve or monopolize this name in various countries where you want to expand. Now, if you look at Etisalat, Etisalat had a problem when it wanted to expand outside. It had a problem specifically in Saudi Arabia. It was too descriptive. Etisalat means telecommunications, which is what essentially they do. So when you start a business, people will always try to find a descriptive way to describe what their business is through their brand. And it's easier for their consumers to associate what the business is if you have a descriptive trademark like American Airlines, like Etisalat. But when you go to expand outside of your territory, you will find problems, and you're going to invest a lot in trying to distinguish your trademark over someone else. And the flip coin of that are trademarks that are really inventive and don't have any meaning, like Haagen-Dazs or Google. So between the very descriptive and the Haagen-Dazs and Google, this is where you strike the balance of how to choose your trademark to ensure that this trademark will live and sustain forever.
Interesting. Now, moving to a person from a professional area to running her own brand, Sukal Mall, I'd like to take Ambreen's opinion on your journey. You worked for some big brands, GE, Bain & Company, MasterCard, and then moved on to start something of your own. Share that story with us.
Thank you. I think coming back to what Omar was just saying earlier on, is the very interesting experience I had from moving from a corporate world from big brands, big global brands, that, you know, when I walked into any meeting with CEOs and I talked about, I'm from Bain, I'm from MasterCard, I'm from GE, nobody flinched. It was an easy sell and it was an easy game. People took me very, very seriously. When I actually left the corporate world and decided to go on my own and launch sukalmal.com, and for those who don't know what we do is we compare credit cards, mortgages, personal loans, bank accounts for the retail side of things, so for anyone out there. But we also have launched an SME section where we also compare banking products for all the different SMEs. When I actually go into a bank, for example, and say, hey, you know, we're a platform that you potentially can use and display your products and get leads from us, who are you again? But a year ago, I was the same person. I spoke the same language. I dressed exactly the same, and it was a very different story. So it was an interesting approach from moving from one area to a small startup. And as we went along in the last 3 years, we've built our credibility, and I see what I felt like when I was working for a global brand. It's now coming back because the banks know us. We've proven ourselves to them. The consumer now thinks that we're credible. We're an independent site that actually compares all different credit cards and give them information that they need. And that feeling is kind of coming back now. But it was a very, very, very hard switch. Going back quickly to branding, when we started the company 3.5 years ago, it's a bit of a funny story, and we chose Souk Al-Mal. Anybody who speaks Arabic out there, I don't. So obviously I translated it word on word, which meant money market. Made sense. Today, when I meet people, they're like, Sukalman, you do stock market. And I was like, why would you think that? And exactly to Omar's brand, now we've just launched into Saudi Arabia, and every single person I meet thinks I do stock market. So it's a very interesting discussion that we're having now, that as we grow regionally, what does that brand mean in other countries? And what the nationalities are. And Saudi Arabia is much, much more localized and less of expats, so therefore Arabic is extremely important from a branding perspective, and what it means is actually very important. So.
Thank you very much. And I think there's a very interesting insight that's coming from the first two panelists. I mean, when you start an entrepreneurial venture, probably we think small, we think local. But I think the world outside is rife with opportunities. And going by the experiences shared by both Omar and Ambreen, I think we could safely say it would be much more prudent to think a few steps ahead and say, 5 years down the line, when I become successful, am I going to become regional? 10 years down the line, or even shorter, am I going to go global? In which case, will my brand stand the test of time and also stand the test of